Hey everyone, Johnny Manziel here. Before we get into today's show, I need to address what's happening back home in Kerrville, Texas. Our community is facing the aftermath of devastating floods right now, and people are hurting. Lives have been lost, homes destroyed, and families are struggling now more than ever. This hits really close to home for me. Kerrville, a place I was born and raised, and seeing our town go through this is truly heartbreaking. If you're in a position to help, please consider donating to local relief efforts. We'll have links in the show notes, and to everyone back home dealing with this tragedy, you're in my thoughts and prayers. Kerrville is strong and will continue to come together and rebuild. Really hoping and praying for everybody back home to stay safe.
So everyone kind of knows that you said wrestling fans are and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And he goes, so, maybe we address it. I'm like, how do you want to address it?
You said watching Florida State win that natty in 2014 was a bigger moment than the birth of your children.
This is one of those things that's going to get me in trouble in a few years. Do you know that I talk about you in my act?
No.
You didn't know that?
No.
You're the central piece of my hour.
Yeah?
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, shit.
What are we making of the Bill Belichick and his girlfriend's situation here?
Fucking hot, both of them. They look.
What do you feel like the most annoying part of the sports fandom and stuff that you see around college sports?
Just people being a piece of shit.
Living in the good old days. Take a look around. Ain't it funny how feels like we're in the good old days. Go and grab a cup, go and fill it up. Cheers to living in the good old days.
Guy sitting across from me right now, one of the top comedians in the world, selling out arenas all over the globe. Podcaster, actor, author. My guy, Tom Segura, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
I saw recently you and Bert, Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
You guys pissed some wrestling fans off pretty good and, made some comments about it. You're just that guy that kind of likes poking the bear, especially.
Dude,
you can't help yourself.
It's kind of a lesson, a life lesson. It was several years ago that I don't even remember how it came about, but on podcasts, I feel like especially when you hang out with comics speak so recklessly and nobody really cares, right? Like if you're hanging out in a green room with comics, somebody always says the wildest
You never know what the
shit.
fuck you're going to hear.
Yeah, someone's going to say, and nobody goes, oh my God. It's not like you're at a PTA meeting, right? It's like, and I've said so many things in podcasts that I'm just like, I wasn't thinking, I just said it. And I ripped on wrestling so hard, like I really trashed. I don't think I trashed them as like performers or athletes. I was just like, this shit is fucking, and I called wrestling fans some not nice words. And so when I got invited to go to this, I was like, Bert actually had never, I don't think he had said bad things about wrestling, but he went to a show recently and he was like, dude, it's so fun, you have to go. And I was like, okay. Kind of like, yeah, one day. And then we're in Tampa and they're like, hey, there's Raw on Monday here. So I go to the thing and I pull it up and I'm like, I wonder if anyone knows what I've that I trashed them before, right? Because when I get there, everyone's like, hey, what's up? Nice to meet you. Very welcoming. I meet a bunch of wrestlers. So nice. And then they go, hey, we want to record. They do those backstage bits.
Yeah.
They go, we want to record a bit. I go, oh, okay, cool. They give us the bit and we're about to record. And then this handsome guy in a suit walks out and he goes, can I talk to you for a second? And I go, yeah. I feel like I'm in school and the vice principal is like, why don't you come here a second? And you're like, oh shit, what did I do? And somebody's like, yeah, that's the president or vice president of WWE. And I was like, oh, hey, what's up, man? He goes, hey, so I know you're about to do this bit. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, so everyone kind of knows that you said wrestling fans are and I was like, and I felt like I was in trouble, I was like, I don't know if he was going to be like, you have to leave. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. I was like, He goes, so, maybe we address it. I'm like, how do you want to address it? And he's like, well, just,
Hey, for the record, you guys, everyone in the building, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh, I remember that. And he's like, yeah, so maybe, she'll ask you a question and you can just, and I'm like, oh shit, man. I'm like, that's like 7 years ago, you know? It's like, it feels like
A lifetime
an eternity ago. And so I say, I do the bit and I say like, yeah, I've said some crazy stuff. And then we do the bit and it's fine, you know, but I'm still like, oh, does everybody like hate me? Which I would understand if they were like, dude, they could not have been nicer and welcoming. And they gave us, you know, front row seats. And I told people after, like I even posted about it. I was like, it is the most fun environment and show. Like it felt like a party.
Yeah, it's legit.
It's legit. And I think up close, kind of like all sports, when you go to when you see it live, you have such a different appreciation for it. Like for these guys and girls being athletes, like they were putting on a fucking show. I mean, flipping off the ropes and like just out of the ring, over the table, just a crazy show. And I really had the best time. And then everyone was like, so wait, are you in now? Are you a fan? I was like, I guess. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You know, throughout your career, you've had some public feuds, American Airlines, state of Louisiana, you know, now wrestling fans, of course.
Yeah.
Who do you feel like is in the most right? Who's the most in the right to have beef with you over the feuds throughout the years?
There's a good list. I mean, probably wrestling fans. like that shit was like so unnecessary for me to say. Because you know the other thing that happens, like I think as you age and evolve and you go to something like this, you're like, everyone's here just having a good time. They're just having a good time and they enjoy this. And I just said something that was super rude and reckless. No, that bitch from American Airlines deserves it. So the wrestling fans are cool.
College football, big thing for you. We were talking earlier when we got on the show.
Yeah.
You're on the road, see a lot of different stadiums. You know, if you see these kids getting recruited and you walk into some of these stadiums and you're like, damn, if I was a kid, this is the place that I would want to fucking go.
Bro, you know what I do because I've gotten a lot of tours. So when we're coming to town somewhere and there's a college football program and they're like, yeah, you know, we'd love to give you a tour. I always tell the person, I go, treat me like a 5-star recruit. I want to feel like you are seducing me to go here. And they're always like, okay. They give me like the full, I'm like, this is my fantasy. So you treat me like I am a, you know, top rivals, top 100 parade All-American. And they're like, got it. There's so many places that you go, like, you know, they all have some appeal, right? Once you're like a top, like you'd say a top 25 kind of program, there's things about like, I mean, I can, you know, like when we did Notre Dame, like that's like this storied, obviously program and culture. Like you could feel that it's special. The most impressive like facility that I had been to, because it was like just renovated, was LSU.
Yeah.
Bro, we walked in there and I was like, what is happening? Because we had just done a couple NFL tours. I was like, this is way better. And
college facilities are nicer than NFL facilities.
that's a mind fuck, I think, to a lot of people. You're like, wait, what? And LSU was just out of control. I mean, it was really impressive. Then there's ones that also just like, I didn't know what to expect, and I was still like, this is pretty wild, you know, like seeing like Penn State. We were there on a spring game day. That was super impressive. Nebraska, too, was like a very, very cool tour. So, yeah, there's been a whole bunch that really stand out.
It's kind of gotten to the point now. I remember, you know, being at A&M and thinking like, okay, this is really nice. I leave, go to the NFL. They do the renovations, come back a couple years later, and I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
And it's kind of gotten like that at pretty much every top 25 program that you're going to see. They come in and they're just fucking amazing. Going into some of these, you ever hear any good stories, crazy stories about players or about? I mean, you've had to have heard some good ones.
Well, the best one was that I heard stories that that I was like telling, because when I was on the tour, I had like asked for stories, and then I got some wild stories about Ndamukong Suh. And so I retold one of them like on a podcast, and then somebody else was like, check this out, like a friend, and it was a text from him to this person like, who's this cat talking about me? And I was like, hey man, I don't want any fucking problems.
No, that's one guy you do not want any fucking
hey
smoke
man,
with.
respect, big fan. You're the shit. All the stories are good stories about you.
Well, I'll take you on the A&M 5-star recruiting tour, and I'm sure they'll have some fucking good stories.
Wait, let me ask you this, because the thing that because I love college ball, and I think if you love college ball, then you have like an appreciation for high school ball, right? Because it is like the next level up. When you're in high school, and I know you're an incredible high school player, you're getting recruited. You almost went to Oregon.
Yep.
Incredible facilities.
Yep.
I mean, Nike money.
Yeah, they have fucking Lamborghini leather in their fucking auditorium seats.
So how close were you to going?
I was really close to going. So I went on a recruiting visit in the summer, probably like June, July. And the second I got offered, boom, committed pretty much the next day. And then I went through probably 3 or 4 weeks in my senior season. I was having a great season. I had no in-state offers, and I wanted to stay in Texas.
You did want to stay?
I wanted to stay in Texas. I wanted to go to UT. And
that is crazy.
Like 3 or 4 weeks into my senior season, A&M came down, watched the game, offered me the following week, and then it kind of started to go into like a decision time. So it took me a couple weeks probably after that to decide that I wasn't going to go to Oregon.
Was there a thing though, because like you're a Texas kid, you want to go to UT, so UT is like the place.
UT during those times, if you remember it, I mean, they went straight from, by the time I was in like 6th grade, it was Vince Young in the Rose Bowl. He lost 2 games throughout his entire career there. Then you go from that and you go straight into Colt McCoy, who had 4 years of being fucking unbelievable. And at that point in time, Texas, the way they were recruiting was pretty much like they got anybody in the state of Texas that they wanted. So they had a list of 25, 30 guys that they wanted. They offered all of them, and they were getting commits like early signing period. They would have pretty much their entire class done.
But when you get the A&M offer, are you kind of like, I don't want to go there? Is it kind of like?
It definitely took me a while I was like, okay, I finally got a good in-state offer. Getting to Oregon from where I was from outside of Austin was like a fucking
to Eugene is not
brutal. It was
easily
accessible. It was so hard. So it was a 2.5 hour drive to Austin, fly from Austin, think you could go to Portland, then Portland you hop over to Eugene. So it was fucking miserable for my parents. They would have come up once, maybe twice a year. They weren't in the position to like where they were going to be coming every week. And I was like, I want to see my family play. I'd been in the state of Texas my whole life, and then as I was thinking about committing to A&M, they were just like, they just weren't very good. Like I was going on recruiting visits. I remember going to watch them play against like Florida International, Florida Atlantic, and they win by like a fucking touchdown that they squeak out late. So I'm kind of like, man, what I know as a kid and what I remember watching as a kid was A&M just being okay. And then as I got a chance to like see the school, go to like more games, they had some really good games later that year where they had, 89,000, 90,000 people there, and the place was absolutely fucking rocking, and you got to see what it was all about. There was an Oklahoma game that year and a Nebraska game that were really, really good. And after those 2 games, I was like, okay, this is the place I could see myself going to. And but it definitely took me a while. I used to go to so many Texas games through my first couple years of high school. Like right when I first was able to drive, I'd con my parents into letting me drive to Austin for a game, and going to a game there and then going to a game at A&M were just 2 completely different fucking things. So it definitely took me a while, even being in the state of Texas, to really understand what kind of A&M was all about and see it when it was at its best.
I mean, people, like, if you follow college ball, there's different conversations amongst fans, and one of them is like, which environment is the wildest for a game? And I think that people now kind of go like, oh, you have to go to an A&M game.
Yeah, just I think it's something you have to see. I would say you would if you're looking around college football, places you need to probably like really go see. You need to go see a night game in Death Valley. You need to go see a game at Penn State.
I feel like people also say that it's worth going to a Virginia Tech game. And that the Clemson environment's also wild.
Probably the Swamp.
Yeah, it's another one. Yeah, so those are all ones that I mean, I've been to a few games, but I haven't.
A&M with what they built the stadium into now compared to when I was there, the place is fucking really special.
I have to go.
I want to take a quick break to talk to you about one of my favorite brands, Fanatics. Some of you might know me as Johnny Football, but today you can call me Johnny Fan Cash. Fan Cash is the top reason bettors choose to bet with Fanatics. Here's why: when you bet with Fanatics Sportsbook, you get Fan Cash, win or lose. You can then redeem your Fan Cash on anything Fanatics. Fresh apparel from Mitchell & Ness, rare collectibles, trading cards, and of course, bonus bets with the Sportsbook. It's a rewards program, but for sports betting. So all those bets you make, win or lose, get you closer to something awesome. Also, new customers don't miss a special welcome offer. Sign up and use promo code Glory Daze to get $200 in bonus bets when you place your first bet of $20 or more. Download Fanatics Sportsbook and get in on the Fan Cash. And maybe you'll get a cool nickname too. New customers only. Must wager $20 or more cash on any market with odds of -500 or longer within 7 days of account opening to receive $200 in bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Terms apply. See Fanatics Sportsbook app. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents call 800-327-5050. And New York residents call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents visit mdgamblinghelp.org. You played some ball in high school yourself.
Hell yeah.
A little bit. You know, if you had to give, the Mel Kiper breakdown on you as a high school football player,
I would love to have Mel review tape and be like, all right, here's what we're going to do with this kid. God, what would he say about me, the review? Man, kid's got a lot of heart. I played center and defensive tackle. So I played
in the trenches.
In the trenches, both ways. I liked defense more. Like that was more fun. So at the time, because all this stuff changes all the time, the classification for Florida high schools was 1A through 6A. And so like 1A was a really small school. 6A was like the 5,000, enrolled kids at the huge school. My school was at 2A, so it was a pretty small school. Okay. And I didn't realize until late, because in a small school, I don't know, did you go to a big high school or small?
4A.
Okay. So 2A school, sophomore, junior, and senior year, our whole team had like 20 some kids on it. And I didn't even realize until later, like when I went back to visit, that I was there just like in a period where we just had there's a lot of big kids on my team. Like I went back a few years later and everyone was like 5'7", 160. I was like, what's going on? And they were like, this is just, there's no,
how it works.
There's no big kids. It's like, oh, because we had like a bunch of kids that played college ball on our team. Like for a team that had like 24 players, like 9 of them played college football.
You guys couldn't have fucking anybody getting hurt. You guys didn't have any fucking reserves whatsoever.
No, it was
everybody's
like
playing both ways.
Yeah, a lot of people are playing both ways. Yeah, it like there's no depth, dude. The funniest thing was, so I was going to go to a D2 school, and then I got recruited by a small school that was D3 in Virginia, right? So that's where you're just going to play for the fun of playing the game. And so they were recruiting me to play offensive line. So the offensive line coach, calls me and talks. I go out. I actually visit the school. And then they're like, great, it's pretty I feel like not as intense, obviously, as like a big recruiting process. And then he's like, so we'll see you in August, for camp. And I was like, cool. So senior year's ending. I have horrible math grades. I mean, I have pretty unimpressive grades all around, but math in particular. Not the football team, but the administration office contacts me, and they're like, hey, they're not talking about football. They're just talking about enrollment. They're like, hey, to start here in the fall, you have to take a math class this summer, because you have to improve your math to come to school here. And I was just like, oh, I'm not going to fucking do that. There's no way. And so they're like, okay. And I go, okay, bye. And I just move on. Like I don't.
That was the end of the football.
Well, here's the best is that, so I enroll in a whole other school, not to play football or anything. And
one that'll let you in with these math grades.
With these grades, yeah. One that'll say, they're like, we don't care. So it's like the day before camp at the D3 school. And it's August. and the phone rings at the house. I don't even have a cell phone, and I answer the phone, and it's Coach. He's like from the D3 school. He's like, "Hey man, we're excited to see you tomorrow. Just going through the thing, and you're going to be in a room with this guy or whatever, and we're just excited to have you." And I go, "Excited? I'm not coming to school." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm not coming there." He goes, "What are you talking about?" I go, "They didn't tell you? They told me that I had to take a math class. I didn't do that shit." He goes, "You're not coming?" I go, "No, I'm not coming to school there." And he was like, "Oh shit!" He just hung up the phone. I was like, "Oh, that's where my college
fucking
football
awesome.
career
I
ended."
like that. I like these fucking coaches. This is who you're rooming with. This is what's going on.
Like,
yeah, no, the fuck it's not. Bro.
No, it's not.
You said watching Florida State win that natty in 2014 was a bigger moment than the birth of your children.
This is one of those things that's going to get me in trouble in a few years.
Have you ever gotten to thank Jameis for that?
I have not, and I would love to. Jameis, Kelvin Benjamin, that was the most exciting. Dude, like, it was so funny.
I was there.
You were there too?
I was.
I was, it's also one of those things, how when you leave, like you live in Arizona now, right?
Yep.
So I feel like, when I left like home base, let's say, and I moved to LA and I'm 22 years old, there is this thing where you're like, you take something with you, right? That like stays with you. Because I grew up a fan, then I'm in high school in the state of Florida, and I'm there in the 90s. And so it's absolute. I mean, it's Florida State, Florida, Miami is like every year, one of them's in the national championship. It's really like, it's part of like the identity, I think, of a Floridian, especially if you were in high school at that time playing football, like you just love it. And so part of like moving so far away, I'm at the opposite end of the country, was like this thing that I held on to. I would always talk about Florida State football with whoever. And that was actually in the early 2000s. That's the Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush team. So everyone here's like, who gives a shit? Like USC. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about USC. And I'm lecturing people about FSU. And then you go through this like period where that was the first time that the whole program kind of shifted down. Bowden is, in his final years, and they have bad season. And so the fun thing about being a fan that I've realized over my life is like, there's no point of being a fan if you don't emotionally invest. Meaning like you have to suffer through the bad times.
Through those shitty years.
So that the good times fill you up more special, so much more. And so it had been like this downturn, and I was like, you kind of go like, I didn't really appreciate the 90s as much as I should have. And like, you go, this is what it's like. This is a cyclical thing. And so when that Jameis team takes off, it felt like this almost like, you feel like vindicated for being a fan. And then I'm in LA and the game is out here. And Bert, who's an alum, he's like, "You want to go to the national championship game?" And I go, "Yeah." And so I go with him. We ended up sitting in different sections. He's like, "My ticket's over here, yours is over here." So I'm just sitting next to like some guy. And I was in one of the end zones, and that game going back and forth.
I just watched the highlights on that again. I saw him pop up on my phone the other day. Holy fuck, what a good game.
What a game, dude. It really was like such an emotional rush, And
that was an Auburn team that, holy fuck, if you go back to that season, had probably no fucking business being there whatsoever, but
they eked out wins, and like
they fucking had the prayer at Jordan Hare that bounced off the guy's hand and they scored. They had an unbelievably crazy fucking game against us that year at home that was 49-42 and just fucking crazy back and forth.
Crazy.
Then they had the kick six versus Alabama,
which was
fucking insane.
It was an insane, and it almost like it's a storybook kind of season.
It was for sure. Auburn scores to go up with 1 minute and 20 seconds left in that game. Jameis is a redshirt freshman,
and I'm in the end zone that they're
driving to.
No, driving away
from.
So we're like back here, and we're like, I mean, he's been money all season. This is it, I mean, for a quarterback, like there's no other like thing you can wish for is like, hey, this is it, man. It's going to happen.
Minute 30 in the fucking Rose Bowl for a national championship.
When Kelvin Benjamin caught that pass, I couldn't, because it's the opposite end zone, and it was kind of this kind of bizarre.
It definitely took it all the way to the ground, so you could really see that he caught it.
We couldn't tell, and you see the hands go up, you know, from the ref, and you're like, I mean, I started like, I grabbed the guy's shirt next to
random
me,
fucking
random
dude.
guy, and I started going, like just like, it's one of those things where you go, oh, that's what you can't get at home. Like you can't, I mean, I would have lost my mind at home watching the game, but being in that environment was just unbelievable.
I remember being out and somewhere in fucking Hollywood after the game, and I'm fucking just tomahawk chopping,
Oh, yeah.
fucking so drunk. I'm like, I love this Florida State fucking fan base.
Oh,
All
it
the
was great.
students who are out there and shit. I'm like, these guys know how to fucking party.
Yeah, that was an awesome day, dude. It was really fun.
You know, every year, speaking of Jameis, goes viral for a different, whether pregame speech or something that he said. I feel like he would do all right as a comedian for the most part. He's funny.
He's hilarious.
Without even fucking trying.
He is hilarious. The thing is, the guy, I can't believe how, I shouldn't say I can't believe, but it's so clear that this guy is so authentic. And I love that as his career has evolved, you have all these people who are, they're not Florida State fans, they're not, you know, Bucks or Saints, they're just like, this guy is so authentically himself and seems like such a good person that all these people go, I just love this guy. And I've never met him, but I think he has like a contagious like quality to his personality.
I mean, I remember the times, especially when he was in school, he's got the media beating him down for the crab legs and all this shit. It's been fun to see like how his personality and how he's just kind of developed throughout the time is really turned him into a fucking badass dude. Let me introduce you to Rohback. The only way I can describe Rohback is best fit and best feel. If you're looking for the best hoodies, shorts, polos, Rohback has you covered. The reason I love Rohback is simple. It's comfortable, high quality, and I can wear it anywhere. If you're looking for normal, casual clothing to wear daily, Rohback is for you. The Rohback hoodie is the best hoodie. I'm not lying when I say this is the softest fabric I own. It's actually ridiculous. I've seen a bunch of NFL and college football guys wearing them, and now I know why. Rohback's all-active shorts are my go-to. Think lightweight, comfortable, easy to work out in or wear throughout the day. Versatile to a T. Finally, it's getting to be summer, and Rohback's All-American Summer Collection just dropped. These designs are money. I don't really wear polos, but if I do, it's now always a Rohback polo. So use the code Johnny on Rohback.com for a generous 20% off your first purchase through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all polos, hoodies, and more with code Johnny. We've been to a lot of college games. What do you feel like the most annoying part of the sports fandom and stuff that you see around college sports?
Just people being a piece of shit. Like, I mean, you know what I mean?
People
like
getting drunk and being assholes.
Harassing people. Yeah, it's like, I think this thing happens too when you have kids that you go, oh, I want to be able to take my kids to an environment and like feel comfortable.
That's one thing about A&M that like I will say you don't see a lot of that crazy like asshole shit. People, even if you're from an opposing place, you come in, it's an enjoyable experience.
I mean, that's nice to hear. I remember, so years ago, my friend is so random. My friend's dad became the head coach at Chapel Hill for the football program, John Bunting. So he had played there. He played in the NFL. My friend Brooks, you know, he knows I love football. And this is like also like in my early 20s. And his dad becomes the head coach at Chapel Hill. So a couple times he'd be like, you want to go to the game? And I'd be like, yeah. And so we're in LA, and I went to 2 games with him. We went when they played ASU. They played ASU one time. We went to the game in Arizona. Horrible. Like the kids, I mean, like they're the college kids, were just fucking horrible to be around. And I'm a 22-year-old guy. I'm like the same age. But I was like, man, this is terrible. That like the way that people are just like, and I'm not saying this is unique to ASU.
Yeah, of course.
Right? What I found ironic was that we also went to a game at the Orange Bowl where the Canes used to play, and it was great. They were great. I was like, we're in like one of the worst parts of Miami, which is where the Orange Bowl was, and everybody was like, in our section was like super. We were all the Chapel Hill. I'm with the coach's son. And the Miami fans were totally fine with us.
It's hit or miss.
Yeah.
I know my family, you know, as I was playing in college, would go to a lot of the road games.
I cannot
and like,
imagine.
I remember after playing the Arkansas game and seeing my family after the game, and just, from my grandma to my mom to everybody, and they're nice to everyone, and they were like, there's something fucking wrong with these people up here. Like this was a day from fucking hell.
Yeah, I love the passion, and like I get it, like, you know, loving your team and all this. I watch games sometimes, and a lot of times there's shots of family, you know, here's so-and-so's dad in the stands, and I'm like, man, I can't imagine the shit that people like your parents have heard from opposing fans, where they got to be like, this is like, talking about our son like this, like, it's crazy.
I think the majority of the time they had like really great experiences. Like, I know we played at Ole Miss 2 years in a row, and by the time, like, my mom's having the time of her life in the fucking Grove, having the best time. And I know towards the end of it a little bit, my sister she was 3 years younger than me, so like still in like senior in high school. Twitter's just now coming around, and like had a very, very hard time with like sticking up for her brother and like being out at games and not motherfucking people to like, it was wild times for sure. Something
you kind of have to, you learn that like they don't know your brother as a person.
Of course.
They're just talking about.
Yeah, and they want your brother to do absolutely fucking terrible in this game today.
Yeah. They're talking about like a number on a jersey.
You know, speaking of Chapel Hill, what are we making of the Bill Belichick and his girlfriend's situation here?
Fucking hot, both of them. They look good. It's so. It is like what, you know, guys kind of joke about. Like, you're in your 70s, you got a fucking pocket full of money, and you're with a 24-year-old. It's like, yeah, go for it, man. Like, he's it's just so funny how he's so not media savvy. Like, he's just he's a hilarious.
This is the most like side we've seen of him. We never got to see any of this when he was in New England. It was like, stone cold.
What's funny is how he is. Like, if he was in this chair, you like, every time he sits with football players, he's like, you could tell he's one of the guys, right? And he, like, his personality completely changes, opens up, and he'll be like, you fucked us on that shit, man. Like, we were trying to scheme against you. We didn't know. We thought the zone would be the right. And like, you see him like, but as soon as it's like a media person, he just completely shuts down. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. She seems nice.
I think they'll do well. I think he'll be good at UNC.
I'm excited, like, as a fan of just the sport, to see, like, he's obviously bringing an NFL development mentality.
That's all he fucking knows.
That's all he knows. And now he's going to be, one thing about like Patriots players is all of them will tell you, you know, you either buy into what this guy's doing, or they were just like, get the fuck out of here. They didn't care. And now he's in a place and the type of program where you actually have more control, right? You have more control over college players than you do over pros. So it's really going to be, I think, people buying completely into this thing. I mean, I have to think that if you're a high school player and you're like a top level player and you want to go to a place to develop for the next level, that all of them are at least going to be like, I have to consider this, you know?
I think so too. It's just one of those things where you better really know what you're fucking getting yourself into, getting into a program like that. Like, it is going to be fucking...
It's going to be different.
It's going to be fucking strict. It's going to be pro level type of stuff.
Pro level. And I think I can't imagine him having... You have to give these guys... People snap so quickly. You have to give them a few years. You have to get like their recruits, you know, developed into a few years. I can't imagine we're going to be 3 or 4 years from now and not see some success there. I think it's almost inevitable.
I agree.
I want to take a second to talk to you about one of the most fun advertisers to work with, IndaCloud. Do you ever look at your to-do list and feel overwhelmed? I do all the time, but that's where IndaCloud comes in. When you take this quick edible, you can go from overwhelmed and spiraling to cozy and snacky. IndaCloud makes legal, hemp-derived THC products that are actually good. not the mystery edibles your roommate's cousin made in his air fryer. We're talking gummies, vapes, pre-rolls that are strong, tasty, and get the job done. The first time I tried IndaCloud, I remember how relaxed I was feeling. I took one gummy and it helped me take the edge off after a long day, and I slept better than ever before. All of their products are third-party lab tested. They're 2018 Farm Bill compliant, and every order is shipped discreetly, so your mailman doesn't judge you, and neither will your roommates. So if you're 21 or older, now's the chance to float above the stress, because IndaCloud is giving all new customers 25% off their first order, plus free shipping. Just use code Johnny or click the link in the show notes to claim your discount. That's IndaCloud.co. INDACLOUD.co. Use code Johnny for free shipping plus 25% off your first order. And when you order, fill out the quick little survey. Helps support the show and keeps IndaCloud sending you the good stuff. So go ahead, tell future you you've got it covered. Then grab a gummy and vibe out with IndaCloud. Now back to the show.
Rookie dinner stories in the NFL, they're always legendary. You always get, picked on a little bit. The older guys kind of razz you up a little bit.
Yeah.
When you're a younger comic starting out and you're on the road with the headliner, what do you feel is the equivalent to that?
That's, the equivalent to that is basically... they're not going to. That's one thing they're cool about. Usually, the headliners are making so many multiples more than an opener. They're not going to be like, "Hey, spend your money." They wouldn't do that. But the rookie actually has money, so they don't get into your money. What they're going to do is put you in a situation that is not desirable. So, at a show, let's say you're at a 3,000 seat theater. And they're like, we want to start the show, but there's nobody's really in their seats. Like half the house is not even sat. People are walking in. It's the one thing you need to perform well in stand-up is at least people paying attention, right? Like if everyone's fucking talking over here, it doesn't matter how funny you are. Yeah. No one's listening. So the shittiest thing is when they're like, yeah, just get out there. You start it up. And you're like, so you feel like it's almost like you can't not bomb because people are like filling in.
Looking for your seats or trying to get a drink.
And you're like, hey, so you know how, and you can tell that like no one's paying attention. They don't care who you are. You kind of feel like you're dying inside. And then at the end of your set, like when you're like wrapping it up, everyone's finally like, and then you're like, good night. And that's like the shit. And then you walk off and you're like, that sucked. And they're like, yeah, for you, but I'm going to have a great time because now everyone's here. Yeah.
You're 23 years into the game now. How was that start, navigating that first year? And there had to be times where you're like, fuck, am I ever going to make it? Am I ever going to fucking hit it with this shit?
Oh yeah. You kind of don't know what you're doing. Like I didn't know what I don't think anyone knows.
Does anybody?
I don't know what I was doing.
That's the one thing I get to see whenever you go to a Kill Tony in Austin. You get people who fucking, you hear all different kind of stories. People's first time fucking bucket pool kind of coming up. People who have fucking been doing stand up for trying to like get on a stage like that for hundreds of times.
Yes. Yeah. When I moved to LA, I didn't move to do stand up. I moved there to be like I thought I'd be like a comedic actor. Like I knew I wanted to like be in comedy, but to me the path was try to do like improv, sketch stuff, and then try to be in TV and movies. Yeah. That was like my own. I'd never thought about doing stand up, and then when I started doing stand up, it was because I had met stand ups in these like improv classes that were like, you should try stand up, like that kind of thing, and I was like, I don't know how to do stand up. And then I would watch them do stand-up. I was like, oh, okay, I think I can try to figure it out. And then you get hooked by it. And then, at the first year, if I thought I was doing like a lot of stand-up, people would be like, oh, how often do you get up? I was like, oh, I got up last month. I'm going to get up like in a couple of weeks again. And they were like, what? Like, we do this like every night. And I'm like, huh? Like I didn't even know. So then like
that scene, it really is kind of like that, especially for people like first starting out. They're getting as much as they can get on fucking stage every single day, night, whenever they get a fucking
I didn't realize
chance.
That was the thing, and I didn't realize too that when you start, you go, well, I did these jokes and they got laughs. I don't have any new stuff. And then people are like, no, you got to keep doing those and like make them better. How would I know that? I didn't know that. And you just kind of start doing it. You start doing it more. And then I was, I was lucky. I was working early as like a host. And then the next thing for host is like the middle act or the feature act, they call it. And I was doing that all over the country, dude, for $100 a show. And I had to buy my plane ticket myself. So I would, if I flew to Hartford, Connecticut, I would make $600 and the plane ticket was $450.
Yeah. I was about to say, you're probably almost losing money.
Yeah. And you get home and you're like, oh, I've netted $100 or whatever. It was crazy shit. And then there's this thing where like you're a few years in and you start to feel like you can do this, but then it feels like, but how do you make the leap? And the thing you discover over time is like, you just have to really grind and work and know the landscape, meaning like some guys were like really funny and they wouldn't pay attention to like, what's the thing at the time? In other words, are you submitting a tape to Comedy Central and to Conan and to the places that can expose you, Like, so I was good at that. I was good at knowing the landscape, and then I would submit. I would go, here's my set. And then you get feedback. Sometimes they'd be like, yeah, it's good, but we're not going to have you this year, but try again next year. That means like try again in a year. So another year would go by and you'd send it again. And then they're like, it's really good. Just next year, do it again. You're like, so like, and at that point you're getting to be like 30. All your friends have careers. They're buying their first house. They're going on vacation. You know what I mean? They're doing things and you're like, I have $100. and people are like, hey man, what are you doing? But you're so like obsessed with it that it doesn't deter. That's how you know you're kind of meant for it.
That's how you know you fucking love it.
Because you're like, I don't care. Like I'm just gonna keep doing this. And people don't get it. They're like, why would you do that? And I go, because this is what I love to do. And then, when you get something like at the time a Comedy Central spot or a late night spot, or you go to one of the big comedy festivals, it becomes this validation for you. You're like, oh, I am on the like people are noticing.
Dad told you finally, like this is
the path. But then you can't plan for like, you want a special, you get your special, you don't know how it's going to be received. A
lot of fucking material too that you have to come up with throughout time and stuff that you've picked or like evolved throughout the course of your career to make a special like that. Like there's a lot of material there.
And then you have to embrace the idea that all that material you developed and that works and that is now recorded and out there is retired, and you got to do it again. And that's I think what separates comics who become notable and like have followings and everything and sell a lot of tickets is they go, it's done, next
wipe
thing.
the slate clean and just go back.
That's the big thing.
What do you feel like is the biggest difference in who you were as a comic then and who you are now?
Well, I mean, over time, there's this thing that they say, I forget who said it first, but they said like the goal in stand-up is over time, you want to be as close to who you are off stage, on stage, right? And when you start, it's impossible. You're too full of insecurities. You don't have experience. So you're putting on a thing where you're like,
yeah, it's like a bit almost.
Yeah, you're trying to be like, you're trying to deliver it in a way that works, but you're not yourself. And so the more time that goes by, you can't manufacture real confidence. Like it happens because, you know what I mean? Like you're under center. It's like, after you've done it.
Yeah, it's second nature. You do it.
I'm not even thinking about this. And that's kind of what happens is like, I think after 20 years, you're more yourself. Like I'm more who I actually am on stage now. Like what you see on stage now is much closer to my real persona than 20 years ago. It's so I'm a more comfortable comic. I know who I am. Like I'm comfortable being vulnerable. Like when you start, you don't want to be vulnerable because it's terrifying, and it's still terrifying, but you don't have the skills to navigate it when you're 22, right? So that's why it's all like you're all like defense. You're just like pushing out because you're like I don't want a moment where this doesn't go well. And if it does, I'm going to panic.
Yeah.
And then over time, you kind of embrace these moments and you start to be like more authentically yourself. And I think audiences on an unspoken level register that. So you connect more with people. People are like,
sure.
oh, you're a real guy.
I think that's something that now that you've said that I've noticed spent a lot of time around Shane, spent a lot of time around Tony. I feel like those guys are exactly the fucking same as they are off, walking around, going to dinner, going to a bar, as they are when they're doing their sets or when they're performing, I feel like.
And that's years of doing it. That's years and years of doing it.
You know, what was that moment for you when you finally like get to a point where you've gone through all this, you've been working so hard at this for so long, and you finally get to the point where you're like, fuck, I'm an arena comic now. Like, I'm a guy who's able to sell out arenas. I'm moving on to like that next stage to where it's like the big time.
Well, I was really lucky in that, and I mean it. Like, I think the path that is less desirable is what you think you want. Meaning, you think when you're a unknown comic that you're like, oh, tomorrow I would like to be an arena comic, you know? Like, you want the success quickly.
Yeah.
And for me, I had this really nice, digestible trajectory, meaning like I sold out clubs, and then I sold out rock clubs, and then another special came out, I sold out small theaters, and then another special came out, I sold out big theaters. So I got to like comfortably move, you know what I mean? Like, I got to navigate.
Go through a year being in one kind of category, the next year things take to the next.
When you don't ever plan for arenas, like you can't go, and then I'll do arenas.
Yeah.
Like, it just kind of happens. And it's flattering, and it's like humbling, and you kind of can't believe it, that it's actually, you're like, geez, this is where the NBA games are played, and we're doing stand up here tonight. It feels crazy when you're in the environment.
It's such a different, it's such a more grand scale than anything.
I mean, I honestly never, I can remember being like that middle act and working a weekend of shows with a headliner where he sold out 6 shows. And I was like, oh, that's the goal. I never thought about like an arena. I go, the goal is to sell out 6 shows at a club. That's crazy. To have 300 people come 6 times, I was like, that's insane. I thought that was like,
yeah, the peak.
That's the goal. And so when that happened, I was like, oh, this is all I ever wanted. Everything else was kind of like gravy on that. You know, I just never, like, arenas are still insane, I think, when we go to them and you're like, I cannot believe there's 15,000 people here. This is insane.
You know, every athlete has that game where they, you know, kind of feel like you didn't perform to your best. It was one of those letdowns, one of those games where just like remember in your head forever, like, I was fucking terrible. Mm-hmm. You know, you feel like you have one of those moments that stick in your head of just a absolute bombing or a day that was just like, fuck, this was just brutal.
Oh, so many. So many.
Just flash you back there right away.
Oh, right away. I'm like, you think you want one? I mean, there's like, because you remember them in different parts of your career, you know, like I remember
the first one,
yeah, I can remember there's a place called the Cat Club on Sunset, and that's one of the first places I did stand up, and it was probably like I don't know, sometime during my first year, and I started to get kind of like some confidence because I was having like pretty good sets for a totally new comic. I'm like kind of feeling good, and I remember I did this, I forget the actual joke, but I just remember getting to the punchline, and there's like 30 people in this small room, and like the joke kind of like falls flat, and somebody's just going wah, wah, like that. And here's the thing, man, it is so, I mean, it's ingrained in my brain, stunning when you're probably 23 and you're standing up there and you're like, I don't even know how to react.
Yeah, fuck, he's right.
You know? Yeah, I'm like, shit. Like, I thought I just did something really funny, and somebody just, like, being mocked as you do it, you're like, what in the fuck? And then from there, I mean, I remember doing sets where I bombed so hard that I had hair at the time, and I was sweating, and the hair was stuck to my face because I was just profusely sweating through one of the, I opened a show in 2005. I'm the middle act, and that's Hurricane Katrina, and I opened on a Katrina joke that I clearly wasn't sophisticated enough to do.
Too soon.
Dude, I said it, and this was a sold out club, so this is like 300 people, and everybody was like, and then I tried to go like, oh, now I'm gonna pivot over to like, other stuff, and that audience was like, no,
you lost us there.
Yeah, you're done. And I just ate shit for 22 minutes, and I remember there was a clock, and I was supposed to do 25. And I did 22, and I was like, and good night, right? Just covered in sweat.
Out of here.
And the club manager goes, what the fuck? And I go, what? And it was a woman. She goes, I thought you were supposed to be funny. And I was like, you just feel like dead inside. And then she goes, can you not count also? Like, you did 22. You're supposed to do 25. And I go, yeah, I didn't know how to like process it. And that night, I remember there was a second show. Dude, I bombed on the second show. And
did you start with the same joke?
Same joke. And
committed.
Yeah, I committed. I was like, no, it's funny. And they
hopefully it's a better crowd coming in.
Oh, dude, I ate shit exactly the same. And I went back to that hotel that night, and it was the first time, I'm 3 years in at that point, where I go like, it was the first time it had entered my mind that I was like, maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I don't have it, because I just ate shit for 2 shows. It felt like I was up there for 2 hours.
Yeah, you're up there for an hour just eating shit.
And I was just like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And that was the thing. And the next night, I went back for the next, and I was like, motherfucker. And I remember I was with Bert. I was with Bert Kreischer. And he goes, hey, can I give you just one piece of advice? Like, just one thing. And I go, yeah, sure. He goes, just open differently. Like, do everything you want to do, just open differently. I was like, okay. And then I went up there and I opened differently, and it was a great night, like an actual exceptional set. So you feel like, oh, okay, like I should have, you just learn, right?
Yeah.
I go, that was a huge mistake that I thought I could do that.
It's part of it though.
It's part of it. Yeah, you have to have those. And I've had, many other nights.
Countless times since
then.
Where you're just like
things where you're just like, I had a show in an arena.
It's all about, you have to take some risk in this though, for sure. You really don't know what you're going to get out of fucking anything.
Risk is imperative.
Yeah.
Risk is imperative in life, right? Calculated risk. But like in performing and in the arts, you have to have risk. I didn't think a show could go bad in an arena. And I did a show like a year ago. And the funny thing was, we did Wednesday night. I still remember this like vividly. Wednesday night in St. Augustine at the St. Augustine Amphitheater. And it was bananas. Like one of those shows that you remember. Like it was crazy good. And the next night we did the arena in Orlando where the Magic play. And the first comic was out there, and audio is weird in arenas, like meaning backstage. Sometimes you can't hear what's going on. So I'm in one of the tunnels and I was like, I don't hear anything. Like, I don't hear anything. Is he going? And they're like, yeah. And I walk out there and the audience is not laughing at all. It's like 13,000 people. And I'm like, oh, I guess he's just bombing. And he gets off stage and he goes, sorry. And I was like, that's all right. And then I have another opener. He goes up there and it's like not happening either. Sometimes when you're in that situation, you go, oh, some crowds don't care about the opener. They just want to see the headliner. So in my head, I'm like, well, maybe it's going to change when I go up there. They bought tickets to see me. Dude, I go up there and I'm like, nothing? like it's, you're here for this.
It's hard to do with 13,000 people too, where you're not still getting at least some fucking pockets of.
Yeah. I was like, there's no pop, nothing. And then it was one of those shows where like I got off stage. It wasn't like the Katrina thing, right? Like it's not like that, but you get off and you're like, wow, that was not great. And I was like in my head. And the funny thing is the next night, so you leave there going like, fuck, that sucked. We went back. We had to go back to the St. Augustine Amphitheater for a second show, and we couldn't have them back to back. We had to spread them out. And that show in St. Augustine was even more electric than the first one. So you just kind of go, oh yeah, sometimes
Just the energy's not there.
It's just not going to happen. It's just not. It wasn't a thing.
Currently, new comedy series, Bad Thoughts, currently streaming on Netflix. Man, I was just sitting here today, popped on the first episode. Didn't expect that at all whatsoever, but kind of duck walking your naked, shitty ass, across.
It's a lot.
It's. I'm in for a tale. I can already tell.
Yeah, it's a wild show. I also, one of the directors and producers of the show, he basically added that, like, it was just supposed to be a guy melting down, like, so make it like super sexy and cool, and then have him make a mistake and show how fragile he is, like, and that's how it was written, that it would just be like a total breakdown. And then like 2 days before, he's like, how about you shit your pants? And I was like, oh, okay.
Fuck yeah.
And then he's like, and then you take your pants off. And I'm like, okay, so I'm naked? And he's like, yeah, but I mean, we'll just shoot it in a way where it's like, and I go, okay, so I should probably like clean up and put my pants back on though, right? And he's like, yeah. And then like a day before we shoot, I go, when do I put my pants on? He's like, I don't know, we'll figure it out.
I think every guy's kind of got to that point where when that happens for the first time, and you just kind of sit there and you don't know what
you don't know what to do
with yourself.
It's like it's so humiliating and vulnerable. And then I've never been naked in front of that many people,
full crew.
And at first, the funny thing is, you're like I don't have some stellar, like, oh yeah, I'm a great naked body. So I was super like covering up. And then this thing happens where I guess you're just like a stripper. You're like, hey, fuck it, just look. Yeah, then I just was like, don't even bring me the towel. I'll just walk around like this. And then nobody cares. That's the other thing. Everybody's just like, oh yeah, whatever.
We're just here to work.
They don't care.
I want to read a few reviews. Your mom called it an insult to humanity.
She really hated it.
The LA Times said thrives on unhinged. Another said unapologetically depraved. How do you feel about those opinions?
I mean, there's something about when you do something that you really, like, you got to do what you want to do. People loving it or hating it, it kind of feels the same, because I didn't have to compromise. In other words, like, it's one thing if you're like an actor hired to do something and somebody says something about it, you're like, well, I was a hired hand in this, But when you make it, it's kind of liberating, where the only responses we've had from people are complete opposite
ends of the spectrum.
People going, I love this more than anything this is the best thing I've ever seen. And then this is god awful, the worst. And so it's kind of, I think in comedy, it kind of feels right. Like, you're never going to have everybody go.
In anything you do, whether it's special, whether it's your jokes or any sets you've done at all.
And it feels like very, to me, like, if somebody goes, I don't like this, I'm so comfortable with it because I know I made what I wanted to make. So it doesn't feel like, you don't feel that like, oh shit, like I screwed up or I didn't make it right. I'm like, oh, well, that's fine because I made it exactly how I wanted to make it. Like, the show was like this blank check in a way, not money wise, but creatively from Netflix to be like, yeah, just make what you want. And I was like, really?
I think obviously with watching this, what I've seen, I think, it's something that's unique in its own right that you don't see.
Yeah.
You don't see this style. You don't see this very often, especially so many different storylines throughout the whole thing. So it's kind of unique in its own right.
It feels like a pretty unique look and style to the show. Like, even Netflix was, we had a call with them yesterday and they're like, this is kind of its own genre in a way. Like, there's other short form comedies and a lot of them are really, really good, really funny. But I think what we did, as far as the style of comedy we went for and the style of the cinematography, it's kind of its own thing.
Let's talk a little bit about Austin, the comedy scene. I spent some time in Austin hanging out at the Mothership.
Yeah.
Unbelievable place.
Yeah, it's really fun.
To kind of see, grew up in Texas, been going to Austin for years, to see kind of what the Mothership has like transformed. 6th Street, the comedy scene. Yeah. It's really brought a different element to that downtown, and especially what there is to do in Austin on the weekends and even during the weeks. I mean, if you walk by there, you see the lines, you see the shows. If you spend time there, it's fucking amazing for comedy. What do you feel like makes that place so special and what it's turned into?
Well, I mean, it's kind of crazy that, I think if you asked 100 comedians if they could build a club, they would all have these things that you go, I'd love to do this and that, but it's obviously like it's inaccessible, right? And then one of us just got really rich and was like, oh, I can do that, which is amazing. Like Joe designed a club where as a comic, it's cool. Like you pull into the back and you walk through this tunnel and you go right up to the green room or right to the stage. Like those are like little details that you'd have to be, like in it to go like, oh, that's perfect, right? Like it's like perfectly designed for that. I actually love, there's 2 rooms there, and I think, most performers are always like, I want to get to the big room, right? Because that's like always bigger is better. But I actually love that small room.
I've seen some maybe even better shows in the small room.
I think it's for me, it's like if you're going to go to a club, I love having an 80 to 100 seat room. I think it's like it's the most intimate. It's like the most honest, the most vulnerable. Like there's this thing when you get to like really big rooms, I don't think people really consider sometimes, but you can kind of hide, meaning like it's so big that you don't actually have to connect.
Yeah.
You can just perform and then they're watching the performance. But in a really small room, you can't hide. You're fully exposed. And that room does that for you. It just gives you that honest reaction and feel that is great.
When it comes to like big moments in a comic's career, especially you see there, a lot of young people who are coming back, trying to get their first start. How real is that Joe Rogan bump for them and getting a chance to, finally get some, opportunities there? It's got to be huge in a comic's career.
It's a big thing. I mean, it's also a huge thing for comics, I think, to get an opportunity to go on his podcast. Like it has such a huge reach that, I remember like doing his I was on his podcast before it was super well known. I'm on episode 2, I think 7, 9, 13. It was just on his couch.
Yeah, when it was just a fucking thought.
Yeah, it was just like talking. And then to see it evolve into what it's become, it's like, it is kind of like the way people talk about the Tonight Show in the 80s with Johnny Carson was like, that was the place. And he would invite you to the couch, and that meant you were like, everyone would know who you were. And his show gives you like an opportunity. You still have to deliver though.
Of course.
That's the thing that I discovered is like, people will be like, oh, get on Rogan, that's like the move. And you're like, yeah, but you still have to deliver, it does.
Getting on is just not enough.
Getting on is not enough. Yeah. You have to like back it up with either on that show being hilarious or being like, pointing people towards a special that like really showcases your comedy.
Yeah. We talk a lot about, especially on the show, we've had a lot of guys on talk about injuries they've overcame. You were no different. You snapped your patellar tendon, broke your arm in a dunk contest. I saw the video of it today. You being at the height of your career too, and then suddenly, a freak accident kind of comes about.
Very
what are you thinking about? What's going through your mind in that situation? As that happens, it just puts everything on pause and kind of throws your fucking world into a blender.
I mean, you think you're just gonna go fuck around with your friend and like I'll be home in an hour kind of thing, and like, no, that was an actual pivotal life-changing experience. You know what I mean? Like to just kind of take your physical shell and your health for granted. I mean, I'm like 40, 41 at the time. You're like, I'm fine. Like, I mean, I was more overweight. I was 247. So I'm like, I'm not like crazy huge, but I'm not healthy. And I'm like, like who cares kind of, right? Like I'm used to being this size guy and, I was lifting, but I was also just eating everything. And I'm like, whatever. And we go and we do that and have the injuries consistent with like a car accident. Like, you know what I mean?
It's fucking gnarly.
It's gnarly. And then also to be like, I think what happened too was like in that recovery, I was in the emergency room, then I was in the ICU, then I went to a recovery center, and you go like, oh yeah, like things like this can just happen in life, and you think these are your plans, and then this happens. It kind of puts, you know, your life and health, everything into perspective, and you go, things can be taken away at any moment. I felt like very much like a child at one point in that room, because you go like, oh, I couldn't turn a light on or off. I couldn't get up and move the thermostat. I had to call for like, I want water, you know? Yeah, dude. And that's lasting a couple weeks. I started to feel like, very down about it, you know? And then it prompted me to take my health more seriously. Like, you know what I mean? Like eating right and working out more. Like it became a bigger priority. And then you go like, oh yeah, I'm like, I have young kids. Like I can't be, you know, in a fucking hospital right now with this. Like it was very jarring to go through. Like it was not
one of those things at the time as you're going through it too, before it happens, where you're like, oh, I can fucking do this.
Yeah.
I'm fucking good to do this.
The thing that I always tell people this because I feel like I'm obligated to, because it really drives the kind of the stupidity, but also the how it was really by chance, is that we were doing this stupid dunk contest and it was over. I won. Like we did the thing where you start with the hoop really low, and we were going tit for tat, and then we put it to 9 feet, and I dunked and Bert didn't. So they're like, it's over. I didn't have to do it again. And then one of the guys was like, I think you got a little more in you, man.
You're like, fuck yeah, I do.
I go, what? He goes, dig deep, man. And I think I had on, I was telling him that I love Larry Johnson. You remember Larry Johnson? He probably before your time, but he played at UNLV and then played for the Knicks. And I had a Larry Johnson jersey with me that day. And the guy goes, hey man, dig into that Larry Johnson inside of you. I was like, right.
Fucking A.
Fuck yeah, dude. That was my last thought before I broke everything. I was like, Larry Johnson. And just, yeah, it was horrific.
We talked a lot about moments from your career. You know, I usually end every episode of Glory Daze asking the guest the question, usually the same one. You know, if you had to choose one word to define your Glory Days, define your career, you know, what would that be to describe yours?
Define
your Glory Days, your good times, your career, the height of it, everything.
Man. One word. I mean, fortunate. Like, I'm a lucky, fortunate, and thrilled guy to be in this, like, to have had the career I've had. It's like, it's funny when you go, you know, you go for your dream, because I really went for a dream, but the career that I have is far beyond the dream that I had. Like, I never thought that any of the things that happened today they weren't in the plan. I didn't think that this was honestly like even possible, you know? It was like, it's so far beyond what I had imagined. So I just feel like I'm a super fortunate, lucky guy. That's kind of the way I would describe it. By the way, do you know that I talk about you in my act?
No.
You didn't know that?
No.
You're the central piece of my hour.
Yeah?
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, shit.
Gotta check this out.
You got to come to a show.
I have to.
You're the thing that ties the hour together.
All right. I'm coming to a show then,
yeah.
For sure.
Fuck, I hope I don't have to do like a WWE thing. Yeah, no,
not.
I mean, like, I had to tell you, I thought you knew that.
No.
You didn't know that.
No.
I talk about you, and then later on, I go back, and you tie the hour together.
I'm glad I could be that piece to tie the knot.
Yeah, and there's I say a lot of shit.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I can't fucking wait. It's fun. Man, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Obviously, congrats with everything that's going on.
Thank you, man.
So much success. I look forward to seeing this show, and man, means a lot you coming on. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, and we will go to a game.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take you to a game anytime.
I'd love to.
Oh, man.
Awesome.
Much love.
Thanks, man.
Good to see you, brother.
You too.